Hello, I'm the Doctor. Welcome to DoctorGeek. Today, we're discussing Series 10, Episode 5, Oxygen. This episode begins in the middle of space, as two dead astronauts spin hopelessly off into the emptiness. Space, the final frontier. A voiceover of the Doctor says, taking the words right out of my mouth. Final, because it wants to kill us. Sometimes we forget that. We join two living people, a man and a woman, on the outskirts of a space station, though how much longer they will be alive is up for debate, as they are quickly running out of oxygen. That will be a main theme in this episode. The woman tells the man that if they can get through this, she'd like to have a baby with him. Sadly, it turns out that her communication system is down, and he cannot hear her. She resolves to tell him again once they get back inside. The man, who we later find out is named Ivan, tells the woman not to waste her breath trying to speak to him, since he can't hear her, and breath is the one thing that they can't afford to waste. They arrive at the airlock, and Ivan starts to bypass it to get inside. But at that moment, unbeknownst to him due to the faulty comm system, one of the dead astronauts lands behind the woman and attacks her, killing her as she screams helplessly. As Ivan opens the airlock and turns around triumphantly, he sees his dead wife looking back at him with outstretched arms, ready to attack. He screams as the opening credits begin. We now join the Doctor as he gives another of his famous lectures, this one on the vacuum of space and all the many ways it can kill you. The main problem, he says, is pressure. There isn't any, so don't hold your breath or your lungs will explode. Blood vessels rupture, exposed areas swell. The boiling point of water is much lower in a vacuum, which means that your sweat and saliva will boil, as will the fluid around your eyes. But you won't notice any of this, because after 15 seconds, you will pass out, and after 90, you're dead. Any questions? He asked a stunned crowd. A puzzled girl towards the front asks, "What's this got to do with crop rotation?" The Doctor looks on puzzled and says, "I don't know, but space is great, isn't it?" and smiles happily. Nardole, after hearing the Doctor's lecture, becomes concerned that he will soon jet off on another adventure, and asks the Doctor to be honest with him, which the Doctor finds unreasonable. Later, in the TARDIS, the Doctor explains to Bill how going to space is just like camping. Too much between you and the outside, and you might as well stay at home. So, he asks Bill to pick a campsite, which she excitedly does at random since the Doctor can't provide her with any Yelp reviews. However, the Doctor immediately criticizes her selection as boring and suggests a different one instead, one of his favorite things, a distress signal. Bill asks the Doctor why he likes distress signals, and he answers back that you only see the true face of the universe when it's asking for your help. At this moment, Nardole enters and angrily confronts the Doctor about preparing to go on another adventure when he has explicit orders to keep him on Earth. Nardole reveals that he has removed fluid link K57 from the TARDIS, and they cannot leave without it. However, it turns out that the source of this information was the Doctor himself, and he chastises Nardole as he sets the TARDIS in motion, while Bill laughs from the sidelines. The TARDIS lands in a dark corridor, and the Doctor and Nardole step out first, but stop Bill from coming too far, as they quickly realize that there is no oxygen in this environment. The Doctor opens the doors of the TARDIS with his sonic and extends the air shell from around the TARDIS to the entire ship. Unbeknownst to them, a wall monitor flashes "Unlicensed oxygen detected." As they go off down the corridor to explore, we get a glimpse of a sign reading, "Air costs, save your breath." After Bill marvels at the view of space through a window, the Doctor opens a locked door, and the team gets their first look at the zombie astronauts from the pre-credit sequence. The man, who the Doctor determines is dead, is just standing in the room, facing the wall. The spacesuit he is wearing is keeping him upright, which Bill is very disturbed by. She calls it disrespectful, but the Doctor says that what's truly disrespectful is whatever killed him. Bill assumes that he is just suffocated due to the lack of oxygen, but Nardole discovers that his force field is still up around his head, and the oxygen tank is full. Searching the ship's records, the Doctor discovers that it's a mining station named Chasm Forge. It had a crew of 40, but 36 records of life signs terminated are discovered. The last entry was Station Unprofitable. As the Doctor finishes reading this, something makes a noise down the hall, and Bill and Nardole are quick to turn around and start heading back to the TARDIS. However, the Doctor doesn't move. Bill asks the Doctor what's wrong, and he tells her, "What's 40 minus 36? Bill doesn't understand, so he answers for her. 4. There are 4 people still alive on this ship. 1 distress call. The universe shows its true face when it asks for help, and we show ours by how we respond." Any questions? Bill and Nardole both look on helplessly as they are dragged down the hall. This was one of my favorite parts of the entire episode because it's really one of the first times we've seen Bill hesitate in a situation. Last week, Bill demonstrated a lot of courage as she led her roommates through what was essentially a haunted house with little to no fear, showing what she had learned in her recent experiences. This week, I appreciated that they showed her to be a little bit more vulnerable and acknowledged that, yeah, she's afraid right now. The Doctor takes this opportunity to teach her that doing what's right isn't always easy, and being brave doesn't always mean that you aren't afraid. In the next room, they find another person, but this one is moving around and has his helmet on. After trying to get his attention with no luck, the Doctor points his sonic at it and pops off the helmet, revealing that there is actually no one inside the suit. It's moving automatically. Bill and Nardole are very shocked and yell at the Doctor for scaring them, which he knowingly did. He smiles back and tells them that he's just maxing out their adrenaline levels. Fear keeps you fast, and fast is good. Now again, I like this line, but this is yet another reversal on its fear is good or not. That line from last week where the Doctor says being afraid doesn't help was funny for a horror movie, but contradicts this line and the lines in Series 8's Blink. Analyzing the suit, the Doctor discovers that it has a voice feature, and he activates it to ask it some questions. The voice is female, and Nardole mentions that he dated her in the past. The Doctor asks what killed the people on the space station, but unfortunately she does not know. He then asks where all of the oxygen went, and she tells him that there has never been oxygen in Chasm Forge. Oxygen is available at competitive prices, and any unauthorized oxygen will be expelled to preserve market value. The oxygen is only inside their suits. At this news, Bill reminds the Doctor that they filled the station with oxygen, and she just said expelled. Suddenly, an alarm begins to sound. As the oxygen starts to be vacuumed out, the cabin begins to depressurize, sending the TARDIS team flying across the room. Luckily, the Doctor manages to get a door closed and stops the loss of air temporarily, but they are now trapped on the other side of a vacuum-sealed door with no TARDIS and soon, no oxygen. As Bill begins to panic about the quickly diminishing air, a voice rings out from the wall console, asking them to identify themselves. The Doctor answers back, telling them to identify first, seeing as since the entire rest of the crew is dead, either he is very lucky or he killed them. He responds that he is Drill Chief Tasker, but before he can say much more, he realizes that they are in the repair bay and warns them to get out of there immediately to avoid the suits. At that moment, the zombie that was just standing there before begins to attack them, and for some reason, the Doctor's sonic flies out of his hands and into the glove of the zombie. I don't know why this happens, and it's never really addressed, but it seems like they are trying to imply that the gloves of the suits are magnetized in some way, maybe like the boots are. It's very strange, and it kind of irks me that they never say why this happened, but the end result is that the sonic short circuits and the zombie falls to the ground lifeless. Unfortunately, the sonic is badly damaged and is no longer in working condition, which really makes it seem like they just put that little flying gimmick in there to take the sonic screwdriver out of this episode. The Doctor removes the chip from the now defunct suit and gives it to Nardole to analyze. In it, he discovers that a single line of code was sent to every suit. deactivate your organic component. The people, the doctor says, were killed by their own suits. The doctor tells Bill and Nardole that since opening the airlock didn't work, the air is being slowly filtered out of the room so that it can be sold back to them at a competitive price. It's capitalism in space. Their only hope of survival is to use the suits that are in the repair bay. Bill is worried that the suits will kill them like they killed the crew, but the doctor thinks that these suits are off-network for repairs, so they won't have received that order. Either way, they're dying already, so they don't have much of a choice. Nardole mentions to the doctor that if the suits have killed 36 people, that means that there are 36 suits walking around trying to kill them. The doctor tells him that that's not important right now, but Nardole tells him that yes, it is, because he can see something moving outside. Through the windows, it's revealed that all of the corpses are walking around the outside of the space station. As the TARDIS team takes in the gruesome sight, the doctor orders them to hurry, and the three of them step into the smart suits. The suits morph onto their bodies with a really cool effect, and Bill's suit informs her that she has enough oxygen for 2,500 breaths. Bill asks why she can't just get that in minutes, but Nardole tells her it doesn't work that way. When you panic, you breathe faster, and you die quicker. So relax or die, he tells her, before immediately helping her to calm down after receiving fairly frightening news. Through the radio, Chief Tasker tells them to quickly make their way to Corridor 12, but as they make their way, the zombies begin to pour in through an open door and start to pursue them. After a tense moment behind a locked door with the zombies fast approaching, the doctor opens it at the last minute, and we meet the 4 remaining survivors of the space station. It turns out that there was a bit of a debate on whether to let them into the room, which is evident by 3 of the survivors pointing their guns at the TARDIS team. But some quick work with the psychic paper puts a stop to that. It tells the crew that they come from the Union, which they say is a myth. It seems the future has done away with labor unions. Yet another dig at capitalism in this episode. The crew introduces themselves as Tasker, Ivan, Abby, and a blue man named Darren, or Darren, as his crewmates call him. The appearance of Darren surprises Bill, and he takes her for a racist after her insensitive introduction. However, she tries to explain that she's not racist, and is actually more often on the receiving end of it. However, Darren can't figure out why she would be discriminated against, which pleases Bill to no end. Bill's suit begins to glitch, forcing her arms to lift up without her control. Ivan leads her away to go and repair her suit, while the others discuss the situation. None of the crew have more than 3,000 breaths left. They were all off-network doing repair work to the ship when the order came through for the suits to kill their inhabitants, which the crew assumes was a malicious hack on the system. They were just in the right place at the right time. Their plan is to make their way to the center of the base where it's the most safe, but they are surrounded by the suits. The doctor asks about the AI in the suits, but is told that they are dumb as rocks, saying that they only have limited problem-solving skills. However, at this very moment, the suits begin to work to fix the lock on the door, setting off an alarm to alert the crew. They begin to move to the next room, but as Tasker opens the door, he is attacked by more zombies. As his suit is taken over by the hack, it electrocutes him, killing him and turning him into one of the zombies. Ivan calls for them to head to the airlock, realizing that going outside the station is now the best plan, despite the multiple zombies out there as well. He pulls out his helmet and attaches it to his suit, as the others do the same. Bill is confused by this, wondering why her force field will not be adequate outside the station, but the doctor tells her that the vacuum of space is too much for the force field to handle. However, as Ivan engages the airlock, Bill's suit begins to malfunction once again, and it forces her to remove her helmet. The doctor, horrified, implores her to put her helmet back on, but there is nothing that she can do. The airlock is an automated countdown, and the doctor tells Bill that she is about to be exposed to the vacuum of space. As the airlock opens, Bill begins to suffocate. Her lips turn blue and her face loses color. We are now reminded of the doctor's speech from the beginning of this episode, as he talked about how much space is trying to kill you. Bill loses consciousness, but has flashes of Ivan shooting his gun at some zombies outside, and one of the Doctor reaching to her without a helmet. Bill wakes up in the station again, but cannot move since her suit is once again offline. In front of her, zombies are crowding around an open door, but they can't seem to be able to enter the room. Nardole and Ivan come to see her and tell her that the zombies cannot enter this part of the station because it is brand new and they do not yet have maps for it in their internal processors. They are safe here, for now. Bill asks Nardole what happened to the Doctor, and he tells her that the Doctor gave her his helmet and walked through the vacuum of space exposed. He's okay, but he's paid a price. As Bill goes to check on him, he slowly turns toward her, revealing that he has gone blind. Bill is heartbroken, but the Doctor assures her that it's only temporary, and once he returns to the TARDIS, he will be able to heal himself. However, this is fine. He does some of his best work when he's ordering other people around. Despite his bravado, it's clear that the Doctor is shaken, and he walks off to think. As Bill approaches him, she asks him if he's okay. Bill, I've got no Sonic, no TARDIS, about 10 minutes of oxygen left, and now I'm blind. Can you imagine how unbearable I'll be when I pull this off? Suddenly, Nardole walks over and tells the Doctor that they have just detected a rescue ship on the way. However, Abby asks the Doctor how a rescue ship could be on the way if he was supposed to be the rescue ship. She demands to know who he really is. I'm the Doctor, he says. I will do everything in my power to save all of your lives, and when I do, you'll spend the rest of them wondering who I was and why I helped you. But this is not good enough for Abby, as she tells him he didn't keep Tasker safe, and she takes out her gun and points it at the Doctor. Ivan tries to de-escalate the situation by telling her it's just the thinning of the oxygen that's making it harder to think straight, but at this moment, the suit's internal mapping system locates the blueprint of this new section, and the zombies enter the room, killing Darren, which alerts the rest of the group to the danger. The Doctor can't see what's happening, but Nardole tells him to guess as he leads him down the nearest hallway. As the group runs from the group of zombies, Bill's suit once again malfunctions, this time stopping dead in its tracks and refusing to move. As they try to quickly repair it again, the suit warns them that tampering with it in any way may result in a fine. Bill quips that she will be fined for dying, and this gives the Doctor an idea. What if there was never a hack, he asks. What if this is just business? The Doctor asks Bill if he trusts her, before telling her that he has to leave her in there, but she will not die. She will go through hell, but she will come out through it, and he will be waiting on the other side. Bill cries out to him as they leave, and the zombies soon overtake her, electrifying her suit and turning her into a zombie. Inside the core of the station, the Doctor is busy working on the machines. Nardole thinks he's trying to make oxygen out of the water cooling the core, but the Doctor has other plans. Nardole tells the Doctor that it's not his fault that Bill died, but the Doctor tells him that the problem with the universe is that everyone says it's not their fault. The Doctor has Nardole lead him back to the computers, and he tells the crew that they only have one option left: to die well. He wires their life support systems to the cooling system of the station, so that when they die, and they will die, the entire station will explode. Nardole, Ivan, and Abby aren't pleased with the Doctor's revenge plan, but he tells them that all they've got left is a good death. Abby argues back there's a rescue ship on the way, but the Doctor tells her that no, there isn't. There was no hack, no malfunction. The suits are doing exactly what they were designed to do, saving the oxygen that the crew is wasting. The crew has become inefficient. They are being thrown away. The rescue ship set off before their distress signal was even sent out. They aren't their rescuers, they're their replacements. The end point of capitalism. Like every worker everywhere, they're fighting the suits. Suddenly, the alarms go off. The zombies are breaking through. The Doctor again urges them to die well. It's the finish line. It's winning. The zombies enter the room led by Bill, and the Doctor begins talking. He tells the suits that their deaths will be brave and brilliant and unafraid, but above all, they will be expensive. All of a sudden, the suits stop. The Doctor explains that if they die, the station will explode, and the company will make the biggest loss in its history. A moment ago, they were too expensive to live. Now, they're more expensive dead. The doctor happily explains that not only will they not die, Bill isn't dead either, and moving towards her suit, he hits a button to revive her. Earlier, the doctor noticed her suit battery was too low to kill her. He didn't say his plan out loud because he didn't want to tip off the suits. The zombies move towards the remaining crew and give them their oxygen to keep them alive. Ivan, the same man from the pre-credit sequence, sees his dead wife again as she fills his tank for him, and he thanks her. As Bill realizes that she will be okay, she hugs the doctor, and Nardole joins in to make it a group hug. Back in the TARDIS, Nardole is repairing the doctor's eyes, and after a few moments, they are good as new. The doctor asks Abby and Ivan where they would like to go, and they ask for head office. They've got a complaint to make. After dropping the two crew members off, Bill and the doctor are back in his office. He tells her that from what he remembers, there is a successful rebellion 6 months later, and that about wraps it up for capitalism. Bill makes her way out of the office, and the doctor remains at his desk with his sonic shades on. Nardole enters the room, saying, "Never again," but the doctor isn't in the mood, telling him to stop talking. However, Nardole isn't having it, and continues to chastise the doctor for gallivanting around in the TARDIS and ignoring his duty to guard the vault, despite the doctor repeatedly telling him to stop talking. As Nardole demands that the doctor look at him, he replies that he can't. He really can't. He can't look at anything ever again. The doctor is still blind. So, overall, I thought this episode was pretty good. Zombies in space doesn't necessarily sound like a winning idea when you first hear it, but Doctor Who puts a really interesting take on it, and it's surprisingly believable despite its ridiculousness. The anti-capitalism message got a little tiring at times, but it was interesting to see someone's take on what our lifestyle could lead to in the future. As for what I liked, there were some really great character moments in this episode. First, we got to see the Doctor in his element, as he gave a lecture on how space kills you, which not only was super interesting, but also set up the future situation that Bill finds herself in. And it also gives us another chance to see how the Doctor copes when he's being cooped up on one planet and one time. And his grin about how cool space is was really charming. As for Bill, she gets some really great development in this episode as she goes on her first proper space adventure. It was really cool to see her enjoying the view from a space station as she tested the artificial gravity. The strength of Bill's character really comes from the fact that she is just so relatable and does things that we can easily see ourselves trying should we get the opportunity to travel in the TARDIS. So that's always great to see. Also, the exchange between her and the Doctor, where he is telling her why they're going to stay and why they're going to help people, was brilliant. Not only did it give Peter another fantastic monologue, but it also showed Bill being vulnerable, which oftentimes gets cast aside in favor of portraying the companions as fearless heroes, destined to help the Doctor. I appreciated seeing that she was genuinely afraid, but knew that the Doctor was right, and that she had to press on. Finally, Matt Lucas delivered another hilarious performance as Nardole, with a lot of great jokes and ad-libs. My two favorite in this episode were his reaction to meeting Darren, where he says, "Some of my best friends are bluish," and also, when he puts on his space helmet, he tries to polish the view by fogging up the inside and wiping the outside. It's these small additions that really make Nardole a beloved companion, and I will truly be sad to see him go. Of course, the addition of the Doctor going blind is a really curious story point, so it will be interesting to see where that goes. As far as the story, I thought the concept was very interesting. However, I felt like there were just a few things that they could have done a bit better. First off, in the pre-credit sequence, we meet Ivan and his wife, who quickly dies. The last clip we get of Ivan is him screaming, and we assume that he has also perished. But when we next see him with the crew, he's fine, and he makes no mention of losing his wife. It's only at the very end of the episode when he is reunited with his dead wife that we say, "Oh, hey, I guess that's the guy from the beginning." I thought this was a very weird thing to do, and
figured it would have been a much better idea to just have a different character altogether in that scene, since it had absolutely no weight on the plot whatsoever. Speaking of weighing on the plot, I did get a little irritated at how Bill's suit decided to not work correctly whenever the plot demanded it, especially since it always did the exact worst thing possible. Need to put your helmet on? We're going to take it off. Need to run from enemies? We're going to glue you to the ground. Just standing around relaxing? Put your arms up uncomfortably. It just seemed like there was no consistency and the suit just kind of malfunctioned to move the plot along. So I would have appreciated a bit less lazy writing in that regard. Lastly, while I did enjoy the ending of how the Doctor outsmarted the algorithm by making their deaths expensive, I thought the resolution in the TARDIS was awful. Here we have Ivan and Abby. Not only are they the last two survivors from a crew of 40, but Ivan also lost his wife, and all they can say is, "Well, I guess we need to file a complaint with head office, ha 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 ha." To me, this felt very inappropriate for how much trauma and grief these people had just experienced. And again, I don't understand the point of Ivan having a wife who dies in the first scene if he is literally never going to bring it up, and it has absolutely no effect on his character development. It just felt very flat and unnecessary. Overall, I thought Oxygen was a really fun adventure, with a new take on zombies that makes them slightly more believable than their terrestrial counterparts, and Bill's first adventure in space. The character development of the TARDIS team was excellent, even if the side characters were kind of swept under the rug and really only used for fodder once the zombies showed up. The introduction of the Doctor's blindness is sure to create problems in the future, and it will be very interesting to see how he deals with such a challenge for the first time in his life.
For an exciting adventure that puts a new twist on an old take, I give Oxygen 7 spacesuits out of 10. So, that was my review of Series 10, Episode 5. Be sure to like and subscribe for more reviews and Doctor Who news every week. On the side, you can find my review for Series 10, Episode 4, Knock Knock. So check that out if you haven't already. And thank you for being my companion on this journey today. I'm the Doctor. Bye for now.